Nityananda Veda Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll do a quick review of yesterday's session. So, can I see a show of hands who wants to summarize what we discussed? So just raise your hand and then I will call your name. You can just give us the points that we discussed quickly. Because we have a long chapter today. Does anybody want to summarize? What did we discuss yesterday? Some main points. Yes, Padmesh Prabhu. You want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes, Hare Krishna Madhuri.
Hare Krishna.
In short, yesterday we discussed about doubt.
Doubt.
Yes, Dhritarashtra's mindset and Duryodhana's mindset, and as result, uncertainty, bewilderment, and turning point. These 5 points we discussed.
Okay. Why should we read the Bhagavad Gita every day?
It is. It gives.
What did Shankaracharya say? Do we remember that? What did Shankaracharya say about reading the Bhagavad Gita and why it is so glorious to read it every day?
To cleanse our body and mind.
To cleanse our body and mind. Yes, very nice. Anything else?
To come out of birth and death life cycle.
To stop the cycle of birth and death. Yes. Definitely Shankaracharya talks about that in one of the verses. Anything else? How should you understand the Bhagavad Gita? Who should we listen to the Bhagavad Gita from?
We should listen to Bhagavad Gita from our Guru.
From a Guru, yes. Why only a Guru and why you cannot read on your own?
Because we will have individual interpretations. So
Yes.
Guru will help us to guide us to get the correct interpretation of that sloka.
Yes, absolutely. That is why Guru is so important in our culture. So if we accept a Guru for whatever 18, 20 years, so many Gurus to just get a secondary education, just to learn physics, chemistry, mathematics, don't we take Gurus for how many years? And we're still not perfect in any of those subjects. So when it comes to the topic of spirituality, should we not have a Guru? Yes or no?
Yes, we should.
If we accept Guru for mundane subjects, to try and become some kind of an expert in it, for spirituality, we should accept a Guru. No, it's a much bigger topic. Not easy to understand, not easy to perfect, not even in one lifetime. We will need many, many lifetimes to perfect our devotion to the Lord. So hence, we need to approach a Guru with humility and with surrender, and in that mood, receive the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is actually very, very important. So what are the reasons that Arjuna is giving as to why he should not fight?
He's worried about his cousins, his uncles, and his grandfathers who he may kill, and he has that sorrow feeling.
So one is my relatives. That was one excuse he gave. What is another one?
In case they die, then the
Many
ladies
innocents will be killed.
The
Yes.
family structure will be destroyed in the society.
What was that? Pratyush Prabhu?
The family structure after the war, the lots of...
Yes, the family structure will disintegrate. Why will the family structure disintegrate?
Because after
the
war,
men will die, and they may be the ladies may get married to other caste people.
No. Ladies will get plundered,
Hmm.
not even married.
Yeah.
They will give birth to children out of wedlock because they will be taken advantage of by unscrupulous men.
Men. Yeah.
Yes. And therefore the family tradition will die. Nobody will be there to guide them, to protect them. What other reason did he give? So we covered 2 reasons. All my relatives, how can I kill them? 2, if I destroy the family structure, everything is satyanash, gone in society. What are the other 2 reasons he gave?
Fear of
Huh?
sinful
Incur sin.
uncles, how it will come back to me. Karma will come back to me.
Karma, yes. Killing has an outcome, right? Every one of our actions has to have a consequence, correct? Whether it is a good consequence or bad consequence, it doesn't matter. So he was worried about karma. What will happen to me? So many killings I'm doing. What else? One more reason he gave. 4th one.
No one is there to do Pitri
Hmm?
Dan, because all the pictures are.
Not able to hear you clearly.
He said, if I kill everybody, there will be nobody to enjoy the victory.
Yes. What's the point of killing all of this? What is left to enjoy if everybody's gone? If my loved ones are gone, how can I enjoy myself? So again, 1, he said, how can I kill my own relatives? 2, I can't enjoy anything and there is no auspiciousness coming out of this killing. 3, I will suffer the karma of killing so many people. 4, because of all of the women who will be widowed, there will be children born out of wedlock, and that will lead to the destruction of family tradition. And then what does he do? He just sits down on the chariot. So this is what happens in chapter 1. So let us look today at chapter 2. So a few quick questions again. The Bhagavad Gita has how many verses?
700.
700. Yes, and it is divided into, there are how many chapters?
80.
Divided into how many sections?
3.
The first section is called?
Karma Yoga,
Okay, very good. The next 6 chapters are called?
Bhakti Yoga,
Yoga.
And the final 6 chapters?
Sankhya Yoga,
Sankhya. What does the word Sankhya mean? Yes, analytical study, yes. So yes, analytical study of the absolute truth. Yeah. So today's chapter is actually titled Sankhya Yoga. And Prabhupada summarizes the chapter as the contents of the Bhagavad Gita summarized. So if you're not able to read the Bhagavad Gita in its entirety, if you read chapter 2 alone, you've got a very good summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So we'll begin today's chapter. So what happens in chapter 1, the last shloka is Arjuna has you just sit down. You don't want to fight. He's confused. He's got his hand on his head, his tears in his eyes. And then what happens? How does chapter 2 begin? I will just read a few shlokas. Sanjaya vacha tam tata kripaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. So Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. You know, Krishna kills a demon called Madhu. Hence, he's gotten a name called Madhusudan. So, let us see. Arjuna has given all kinds of excuses. He sat down. Do you think the Lord is going to be very kind to him now when he speaks to him? No. The Lord is extremely harsh. The next two shlokas are very harsh words for Arjuna. Here's what the Lord says. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Khutastvam Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtamasvargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. Translation of the shloka is as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. Krishna is very, very harsh. He's saying, really? On the battlefield, you want to show compassion all of a sudden? You've selected the most inopportune time to demonstrate your compassion. What's wrong with you? Krishna chastises Arjuna. Next shloka. Klaibyam masmagamah partha naitatvayupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurpalyam tyaktva tishta parantapa. Translation. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. Krishna is calling Arjuna impotent. You are showing weakness. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise. And then he ends, he calls him Parantapa. Parantapa means chastiser of enemy. He said, have you forgotten what your role is? Your role is to defeat the enemies. Where has this weakness come from? Where has this impotency come from? And Prabhupada writes in the purport, if you are a son of a Kshatriya and you are not exhibiting qualities of a Kshatriya, then you can't call yourself a Kshatriya. So similarly, Prabhupada writes in the purport, if you're a son of a Brahmana, but you're not demonstrating the qualities of a Brahmana, you certainly cannot call yourself a Brahmana. So Krishna is very, very harsh with Arjuna. What is wrong with you? You've selected the most inopportune time to demonstrate your compassion. This is not the time or the place to show compassion. That too on the battlefield. So this chapter is titled Sankhya Yoga. So let us look at the chapter. I want to offer my humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So in this chapter, yesterday we discussed, we all go through stressful situations. The easy way out is to not take any action. The easy way out is to walk away from the stress or think you're walking away from the stressful situation. But nevertheless, unless we confront the situation and our confusion, we will not achieve resolution. So the question is, how do we manage stressful situations? So in the first chapter, we said the single word summary for chapter 1 is Arjuna lamenting. Oh Krishna, I cannot do this. Too much burden on me. So the single word summary for today's chapter is identity. Arjuna has forgotten who he is. He's forgotten he's a Kshatriya. He can't pretend to be a Brahmana and say, I'll walk away to the forest. That's just false renunciation, Krishna says. Don't engage in false renunciation. You must do your duty. So here, Krishna will re-establish for Arjuna what his true identity is. And then, through this chapter and reading the shlokas, we begin to understand that all of us human beings have two types of duties, one to the body and one to the soul. And then we will also understand how do we achieve permanent happiness. There is a difference between sukha. Sukha is just pleasure, but somehow we translate it to happiness. Pleasure is temporary, it is fleeting, it is impermanent. What we are seeking is ananda or even paramananda. We want permanent happiness. We want to get rid of all of the stress and always be in a blissful state of mind. How can we achieve this state of bliss or ananda is what Krishna is going to talk about. Or at least that is what we will understand from reading the shlokas. So the acronym for today is Gita. G is for Guru. Krishna talks about the importance of listening from a higher authority. Identity, which is a single word summary for today's chapter. The fact that we have two dharmas, the Swadharma and the Nitya Dharma. Swadharma is duties and responsibilities on the bodily platform. Nitya Dharma is duties and responsibilities to the soul that is eternal. And ultimately, how do we all achieve that platform of Ananda? So, in Shloka 2.7, after Krishna chastises him, Arjuna still argues with Krishna. He says, yeah, you are saying this. And then Arjuna says, but Krishna, how can I kill my guru? How can I kill Bhishma Dev? They are worthy of my worship. I need to fall at their lotus feet. So even after Krishna chastises him, Arjuna is making counterpoints, telling Krishna, I hear you, but I'm not fully convinced by what you're saying. So in this shloka, Arjuna says, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavah prichhami tvam dharma sammuda chetah yachreyasyan nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Arjuna finally surrenders. He says, Krishna, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. Arjuna is acknowledging that he has become weak. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So up until now, the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna was one of friendship. And a new phase is now going to begin in the Bhagavad Gita with this one statement of Arjuna, where he says, Shishyasteham, I am now your disciple. Shadimam tvam prapannam. I'm surrendering you to you, Krishna. I really don't know what to do in this situation. I'm bewildered. Can you please instruct me? So similarly, for us, when we encounter difficult situations, we must approach a higher authority. Not your mama, your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, your colleagues, who may be well-intentioned and give you some advice. By mistake, they may be correct. But why take a risk? Approach the Guru. So our Shastras say that when you are in a confused state of mind, how and where do you seek the answers? Guru, Shastra, and Bhagavan. Either you take the shelter of Guru, You take the shelter of the scriptures and seek answer from the scriptures. But Krishna also wants, don't do this independently. Don't think you can pick up the scriptures, read it, and become an expert. No. If we have to learn 2 + 2 is 4 from a teacher, spirituality and understanding what is the right decision to make, one must be very serious and approach a guru. So Arjuna has finally at least expressed the words, I am surrendering. Has he really surrendered? Not yet. He will only surrender somewhere in chapter 11. So what are the 3 keys to surrender? When do we surrender? Only when we have given up and we really don't know what is it that we need to do. How do we save ourselves from the situation? Which means you are eager to listen and learn. So in order for you to take shelter of a guru, you must have the willingness to listen, learn, apply. Listen, learn, apply. The second aspect of surrender is we have to acknowledge that we are weak and we don't have all of the answers. Unless we tell ourselves, I actually don't know how to get myself out of the situation, I am ignorant, how will we try to solve the problem? Therefore, accepting a bona fide, there is a reason why Prabhupada uses the word bona fide guru, bona fide guru, bona fide guru, not any guru. What is the criteria to accept a guru? What is the qualification of a guru? How do you know that that is the guru that you need to approach? Because there are so many, Prabhupada says, if you want to be cheated, there are many cheater gurus available for you who say, give me some money, I will give you some mantra and all your problems will be solved. No, 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 no. This is not the kind of guru that you need in your life. Not somebody who you have to pay money to get some mantra. That is available for free in the Vedas. What is the kind of guru you need to approach? A guru who speaks the words of Lord Krishna. A guru who says, surrender to Krishna. A guru who says, follow the scriptures. So we need to be very careful. Who do we approach to get guidance and assistance from? Not anybody on the street. So this is the care we must have. So it takes a lot of courage to acknowledge our failures, our weaknesses. But until and unless we accept that we are ignorant, that we are weak, we cannot expect success in life. So there is a saying, success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. What does that mean? When you succeed, everybody will take credit for it. They'll say, see, I told you to do that. No? Thank God you followed my instructions. Otherwise, God knows what would have happened. But when you fail, everybody will dump you and criticize you and say, you never followed my instruction. So success has many fathers. It means when you are successful, anybody and everybody wants to take credit for it. But when you fail, nobody stands by your side. You are an orphan. You feel lonely when you're not successful. So this is the importance of surrender and accepting a guru. What is the second lesson for us? If we really want to be progressive in life, we have to cultivate humility. Humility doesn't grow on a branch that you just pluck and eat and absorb it and become humble. It takes a lot of hard work to be humble, actually. But humility protects us from pride. A lot of us are materially accomplished. Some of us are doctors, some of us are CEOs, some of us are great housewives, which is a great accomplishment. But we shouldn't be proud of these accomplishments. It's going to be gone one day. So what is it that we should really be worried about? See, if we are lost in our own false ego, how can we be humble? So to be humble, we have to get rid of I, my, mine. No? Dhritarashtra, my sons, my land, my kingdom. So there is no my in when we talk about humility. No? So the acronym for today's class was Gita, right? So we covered the importance of Guru. So Arjuna has accepted that he really doesn't have any answers. And Krishna, can you please help me? And now Krishna begins to help him. First he says, you're a fool. The first thing Krishna tells Arjuna is, you are a fool. We will read that shloka where Krishna says, you're talking like a great Brahmana. You actually don't know what you're talking about, Arjuna. So Krishna is saying, why are you pretending to be a Brahmana like a big Pandit all of a sudden? You're no Brahmana. You're just a Kshatriya. So don't preach like as if you understand the scriptures. So what is our position currently? Now, everything that we do is on the bodily platform. When you identify solely with your body, that's where things go wrong. That is what leads to an identity crisis, which we talked about yesterday. An identity crisis happens when you make decisions solely based on body. When I'm saying body, I'm not just talking about your physical body. I am talking about the body and all of the relations on the bodily platform. All of the designations, mother, father, wife, husband, CEO, doctor, all of these various titles that we carry around with us on our shoulder every day. That's not the basis of all of your decisions. That is the mistake that we make, because we don't understand that we are actually eternally a soul. So this is what Krishna is going to establish for Arjuna. So here Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. Translation. Krishna is saying, you keep talking about killing, 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 killing. What's wrong with you? You're getting killed every day anyway. What's the explanation? As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't you know your body is constantly changing? From the time that you took birth, your body is not constant. So why are you bewildered? This soul is like a yantra. This body is like a yantra. And the soul is just like a driver seated within this yantra, driving the body. But the body you have to give up, Arjuna. You are only talking about killing all these bodies arrayed on the battlefield. So Krishna says, if you really understand this truth, you're not going to be bewildered about your responsibilities. You will still perform your duty. But then Arjuna argues even more, Arjuna doesn't give up very easily. He says, But we are attached to the bodies, are we not? We're attached to relationships. We're attached to our family. We're attached to our children. We're attached to our country. We're attached to communities. We're attached to our titles. Arjuna is saying, it's not that easy to give that up. So we now will understand a few concepts from chapter 2. So Krishna has said that your body is constantly undergoing change. And when the soul is ready to exit the body, it will just take on another body. What is there to be so concerned about? You're talking about killing. You're not killing anybody. The soul can never be touched. And then Arjuna says, but wait a minute. I am attached to the bodies. I am attached to my relatives. Why are you telling me, don't worry? So this slide is important for your understanding. Our body is made up of the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. What we call death is when the body is of no longer any use to us, whether it's through old age or otherwise. So when you have to give up this physical body, that is called death. But then after death, your subtle body still exists. What does your subtle body consist of? Mind, intelligence, and false ego. So your subtle body waits for another physical body along with the soul before you enter, along with your mind, intelligence, and false ego, and the soul, you go occupy a new body. Is there a guarantee that that new body will be another human form? No. That depends on your karma. So 2 concepts. One is the gross body, which is what you are able to physically see. At the time of death, you have to give up this physical body. But there is another body that you have, which is called the subtle body, which comprises of your mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this goes along with you, along with the soul, to occupy the next body. So then what is liberation then? When you give up the gross body and the subtle body, the only thing that is left is the soul in its complete purity. That is called liberation. Which means at the time that you achieve moksha, you also have given up your mind, your intelligence, and your false ego. So the soul is eternally Satchidananda. This is what we call the Atma. So at the time of liberation, the Atma in its purest form exists. So we need to understand these concepts. So Krishna is saying, it is the soul you need to worry about. It's not the body. Don't be overly emphasizing everything on the bodily platform. If you do that, you will make the wrong decisions. It's not that the body is not important. Then Krishna talks about the symptoms and the features of the soul. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marudaha. Krishna says, the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So all the weapons, hey Arjuna, that you are talking about, that you have on this battlefield, it cannot touch the soul. The soul is indestructible. It is indivisible. It is eternal, Krishna says. So some facts that we can understand about the soul, not just from the Bhagavad Gita, but also from other Shastras. The soul is eternal. The original position of the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. The soul in its pure form is always blissful, always filled with joy. And the soul is seeking a relationship with Paramatma. And only when it is in a relationship with Paramatma is it blissful. So we as human beings, we are actually searching for God. We may not know it, but we are searching for God in the wrong places. We think God exists in a BMW. We think God exists in a swimming pool. We think God exists in a penthouse. We think God exists somewhere in Bali in a vacation. See, we are always searching for this joy. Every one of us, we are searching for this joy eternally. And we think if I go on vacation, I'll be happy. If I buy a better house, I'll be happy. If I get married to a beautiful woman, I'll be happy. If I get married to a rich man, I'll be happy. If I become ultra wealthy, I will be happy. So you see, we are seeking happiness, but we can only be happy, truly blissful in relationship with the Supreme Lord. Everything else will only lead to frustration for us. The soul is searching. Why am I not connected back with the Supreme Lord? As Shastras say, the signs of the soul. So if you pluck a hair from your head, that tip of that hair, you cut it into 100 pieces. Then you take one of those 100 pieces and cut it further into 100 pieces. That's the size of the soul. There is no other scripture better than the Vedic scriptures to reveal all these truths to us. The size of the soul is described in the Shastras, which is 1/10,000th. Can you imagine how small it is? The tip of a hair. The soul is conscious. So the symptom of the soul is consciousness. So somebody asked a question here yesterday, right? What do we mean by Krishna consciousness? Why did Prabhupada name it International Society for Krishna Consciousness? Do you know, when he was getting ready to register this institution in New York, some of his disciples told him, Prabhupada, if you put the word Krishna, nobody will know. Why don't you say International Society for God Consciousness? Then we will attract more people. That's what some of Prabhupada's own disciples told him. Don't use the word Krishna. Do you know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada said, God has a name. And I want everybody to know that God's name is Krishna. Therefore, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not God Consciousness. Because God has a name. He has millions and billions of names, but his primary name is Krishna. So the soul and you, because you as the soul are occupying your current body, you are searching for happiness in all the wrong places. So what's the conclusion about the soul? So now Krishna has established to Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, remember, we are all spirit souls. We exist eternally. You existed before in another body. All these kings that you see on the battlefield, you are talking about killing Drona and Bhishma. Don't worry, they are going to get another body. The spirit soul is eternal and indestructible, while material nature is temporary. Because of this, one should not be bewildered by the inevitable destruction of the material body. Rather, one should remain fixed in prescribed duties, Krishna keeps coming back throughout the Bhagavad Gita. He emphasizes that we must perform our prescribed duties. That's the only way out. No escapism, none whatsoever. We cannot escape our responsibilities. No matter how much burdensome some of these responsibilities may be for us at different stages in life. But Krishna emphasizes, if you perform your duty, even if you're not performing it perfectly, still you're being purified simply because you're attached to performing your duties. And by continuing to do this, you will realize your own self as well as the eternal self, the eternal supreme Paramatma. Then Krishna talks about reincarnation. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityor dhruvam janma vritasya cha tasmadapariharyete natvam sochitum arhasi. When Arjuna says, but then I'm attached to these bodies, Krishna says, one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So Arjuna says this attachment to this body is causing all kinds of grief. Krishna says body undergoes changes. And then Arjuna says, but then I don't want to lose these relationships. Then Krishna says, you're going to get a new body. Why are you lamenting? Then Arjuna says, but I have attachment to my relatives. Krishna says, well, you don't have a choice. You just have to tolerate the fact that you're going to die one day. And if you die, birth is certain. If birth is certain, death is certain. If death is certain, birth is certain again. So just perform your duty. Don't worry about consequences. Don't lament, he's telling Arjuna. So we'll talk about the two dharmas now. So, all of us have a duty and responsibility to our family, to society, to ourselves. So this is called Swadharma. There's no escapism here. You do have a responsibility to your family and to society. But what we forget is the soul. In yesterday evening's class, I was just talking about how much money we spend on our body. Dressing it, nice clothes, nice jewelry, nice objects to clean, nice house to house the body. So much money we spend on our body. What are we doing for our soul? Any money we spent on our soul to nourish our soul? Any time, any energy, any effort? Not at all. Most of us are so caught up on the physical platform, we forget that we have to give up this body. But our Shastras say, more than taking care of the body, our duty is to make sure we perform our Nitya Dharma, which is the Sanatana Dharma, the Dharma of the soul. The word Sanatana means eternal, permanent. So the question is, what do you do for the soul? Free, no cost, high ROI. Return on investment is fabulous. Just chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, just reading the Bhagavad Gita, just performing some little devotional service every day, whether it is in your house or in the temple. You are providing food and nourishment for the soul, which is what it has always been longing for. This is all of our Nitya Dharma. But we are all too busy. Too busy to chant, too busy to attend classes. We get tired easily. Temple, maybe I will go on my birthday. Temple, I will go visit if I want something. Yes, I will perform this yajna or that puja, because I need something. So this nitya dharma must be performed all the time, every time. As much as time and energy we are spending on taking care of our body, our family, and all our other responsibilities, should we not take care of the soul? This is a wonderful cartoon here. What is this man doing? He's got a parrot inside a cage, but he's very, very busy polishing the cage and taking care of the external cage. Internally, after some time, what has happened? Parrot is dead. So similarly, you and I may be walking around physically fit, doing all kinds of things, but internally we are dead. When we don't chant, we are dead. When we don't read the Bhagavad Gita every day, we are dead. When we don't offer our obeisances to the Lord, we are dead, as good as dead. So our gurus and acharyas say, we cannot neglect the Sanatana Dharma and only worry about the body. This is like decorating the cage but not caring for the bird that is residing inside the cage. This is the mistake Krishna is pointing out to Arjuna. You are talking body, 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 my family, my this, my that, my kingdom. Have you forgotten that the soul is eternal? So now we come to the very last concept of what is really bliss that we are seeking, right? We discussed that we are actually seeking happiness. All the time we are seeking happiness. We're trying to make ourselves so comfortable. We want so many conveniences in life. All of that is for the body. If it is too hot in the summer, we want AC. If it is too cold, we want heating. Like this, we are constantly in search of happiness. But true happiness resides in performing your nitya dharma perfectly. So how can you make the switch, right? All of us are conditioned to focus only on the body. Nobody has told us what to do on the other side. Nobody has educated us. How many times would we have visited temples from our childhood? Has anyone ever told us actually focus on the soul? Nobody. We are eternally grateful to Srila Prabhupada for bringing this knowledge front and center emphatically throughout this entire globe, establishing the fact that we cannot be happy on the bodily platform. We must base our survival and existence on the Nitya Dharma. So now, how do you do this? It's not easy to give up what you've been attached to for so many years. Forget so many years, so many lifetimes, because you're carrying your inclinations, you're carrying your desires from previous births also, which you're trying to fulfill. So when the Atma is not satisfied because it is conditioned, when the Atma, although Atma is pure, your consciousness is tinged with materiality, you have to keep coming back to experience birth and death. So the only way we can achieve higher taste is in as much as we take care of our body, if we begin the journey to take care of the soul and provide it the food and nourishment that it is craving for, then you begin your journey on this platform of eternal bliss. So we have to replace our lower tastes with higher taste. Prabhupada explains beautifully in the purpose that a human being cannot be without desire. If you don't have the desire to live, you will not be motivated to do anything. So you cannot be without desires, but you can substitute desires that are problematic with spiritual desires to achieve some peace of mind, to achieve that inner transformation, so that we can see everybody as a beautiful, eternal soul who is hankering for God but has forgotten God. So the only thing that can give you this feeling of bliss constantly, that can give you high levels of energy, is this Harinam meditation. So I invite you to join us every day, at least 15 minutes before class, so we can chant along with Srila Prabhupada and begin this journey to nourish our soul. This is the higher taste. When you become attracted to chanting, when you become attracted to the scriptures, when you become attracted to doing seva, you will transform yourself. You will become a better human being. You will be less angry. You will be less worried. You will be less stressed. So how do we end up getting stressed? So in the Bhagavad Gita, when it comes to lower taste, how does it actually happen? So Krishna chalks out the sequence with which this happens. He says, do you know, Arjuna, your senses, we have 5 senses: touch, feel, sight, ears, nose, mouth. Krishna says, do you know, when these senses look at something, or smell something, or hear something, or touch something, immediately attachment is created. I can use a very mundane example. I like sweets a lot. So if I go to the temple bakery and I see all these nice cakes and everything organized, immediately my mind reminds me, I experienced a little joy by having the taste of that cake. And pretty soon, your mind is on, should I buy that or not? Because I want to satisfy myself. I want to experience what I enjoyed before. I'm taking a mundane example, but this is how attachment, when your sense objects contemplate on something, temptation comes. You want to get it. That temptation leads to lust. And when that desire is not fulfilled, it leads to anger. So the shloka here is, Lord Krishna is saying, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. Krishna is saying, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. What happens if your desire is not fulfilled? Anger leads to confusion. You are now fighting to get what you couldn't get. And when you're fighting to get what you couldn't get, you even lose your intelligence. And what happens when you lose your intelligence? You lose sense of what is right or wrong. And this is what leads to problems in society. Rape, suicide, crimes, all kinds of injustices happen because of this cycle. When your lust is not fulfilled, it leads to anger. Anger leads to confusion. Confusion leads to loss of intelligence. And when you've lost your intelligence, you've made the wrong decisions. Of course, this is the extreme end of the case where you have rape, suicide, and social crimes. There may be less extreme cases for ourselves, where we may have made a lot of missteps, creating problems for ourselves. So this is the problem with lower taste. Lower taste means when you are engaged, your senses are engaged in material objects or material things. So the same senses can be used for higher taste. How? By regulating your senses. How do you regulate your senses? Chanting, reading, association with other devotees, changing your diet, honoring only prasadam, and deity worship. So this formula is called the ABCD formula. Association with other devotees, reading books like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, chanting the holy names of the Lord, deity worship, and changing your diet. This is how one can begin the journey of regulating the senses. If you do this, you can then remain in an undisturbed state. And this gives you the opportunity to taste what is Ananda. This Ananda or feeling of bliss comes from doing these 4 things. ABCD, association with other devotees. See, if you associate with others, you will pick up their habits. So if you want to truly transform yourself, then you need to hang around the right crowd, right? Because whoever you associate with, you begin to pick up their vasanas. You get influenced by them. So if you want to transform your life, you need to spend more time with people who are on this path of Bhakti Yoga. Slowly, you will see the transformation because of this. So Krishna likes to use a lot of analogies in Bhagavad Gita. He uses the analogy of a tortoise here. He says, Yada samharate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashah indriyarindriyartebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Krishna has explained to Arjuna. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So Krishna is saying, yes, things will happen to you. There will be summer, there will be winter, there will be ups, there will be downs, there will be distress, there will be happiness. But he tells Arjuna, just tolerate it because you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. He uses the word titikshava. Titikshava means tolerate. He says, hey Arjuna, these things will happen because of your karma. Just withdraw your senses when these things happen. Like a hard shell, you just learn how to tolerate it. When you learn how to tolerate it, you are fixed in perfect consciousness. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So now Krishna is saying, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. As I was explaining, your desires will always be there. A human being cannot live without desires. You cannot survive without a will to live the next day. So Krishna is saying, you try to restrict your sense enjoyment. The taste for sense enjoyment is not going to disappear. But Krishna is saying, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is saying, don't give up your desires. Just substitute your lower desires with a higher desire. What is all the higher desire? All the higher desires are on the platform of Nitya Dharma. All the lower desires are on the platform of Swadharma. And then Krishna is giving one more advice. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, and Krishna is now using another analogy, just like the rivers flow into the ocean. The ocean is always being filled with water, but the ocean never breaks its barrier. It stays where it is, no matter how many rivers are pouring water into the ocean. Similarly, Krishna says, that many desires will keep coming into your mind. Don't react and respond to every single desire. You need to stay still. If you do that, Krishna says, only if you do that, you can achieve peace. And then he says, a man who is constantly trying to satisfy every single thought and desire that arises in him is going to be disturbed. The desires themselves are going to create so many disturbances for him. So what was Arjuna's arguments, both in chapter 1 and again in chapter 2? Arjuna is telling Krishna, I'm very compassionate. I love my people. Krishna is saying, forget it. You don't have a choice. The body you have to give up. The soul never dies. Then Arjuna says, how can I enjoy after I destroy everything? In this chapter, in chapter 2, Krishna says, well, let's say you lose on the battlefield. Let's say you give up your life. If you lose, you win. If you win, you win. What does this mean? If you lose the battle and if you have to give up this life, anyway, you'll go to the heavenly planets and enjoy yourself. Why are you worried? The soul will immediately take on a body and go reside in the heavenly planets. So what is your problem? If you win, you win. If you win this battle, then you'll get to enjoy your kingdom, the prosperity. So either way, there is no loss. Then Arjuna's argument, but family traditions will be destroyed. Then Krishna reminds him, family traditions are important. What is more important is to serve Krishna. More than family traditions, it is important to understand who is the Supreme Lord, because he is our eternal Father. Krishna says the essence of all the Vedas is to find out who I am. I meaning here Lord Krishna. Then Arjuna's argument, so much sin I'm going to commit. Krishna says, if I am instructing you to fight, there is no sin. So anything that we perform to please Lord Krishna, we don't incur karma. So Krishna is reminding, of what karma we will get to the next chapter tomorrow, where it is described in far more detail. Anyone who's following the instructions of Krishna faithfully, anyone who's following the instructions of a bona fide acharya faithfully, is not incurring any karma. You don't have to worry about sin because you are trying to uphold dharma here. Then one of Arjuna's argument in chapter 2 was, I really don't know, is it better for me to conquer them or is it better for them to conquer me? I'm a little confused. I don't know which is better. If I defeat them or if they defeat me, which is better? Krishna emphatically says, the opposing party is sinful. They have to be killed. You don't have a choice. Your duty is to uphold dharma. So stop making excuses, get up and fight. So a lot of people say, this Bhagavad Gita talks about non-violence. Bhagavad Gita doesn't talk about non-violence. Non-violence is necessary, important. But violence is necessary to protect dharma. When it comes to protecting the innocent, to making sure that society functions well, that there is no preponderance of discrimination, of injustice, then a war has to be fought. So a summary of today's chapter, the acronym for today was Gita. G for Guru. What is surrender? One must be eager to learn. And one must approach Guru and Shastra with humility. But the precondition to surrender is first of all acknowledging that you're weak, you're ignorant, you don't have all of the answers. Only then does it create an atmosphere for you or conditions for you to surrender. Then Krishna talks about identity, that we are all the eternal soul. This body is temporary. So temporarily we have duties and responsibilities based on the bodily platform. But our eternal duty and responsibility is to serve Krishna and nobody else. We talked about the gross body and the subtle body. At the time of death, we have to give up the gross body. At the time of moksha, we have to give up also the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, until the soul achieves its original position of Satchidananda. We discussed the characteristics of the soul, that it cannot be touched by fire, it cannot wither, it cannot become wet, it cannot be destroyed by any weapon, it is indestructible, it's eternal. Reincarnation, the fact that at the time of death, we have to go and occupy another body. Two dharmas, swadharma and nitya dharma. We have a duty and responsibility on the bodily platform, but more importantly, we have duties and responsibilities to our soul. And how can we achieve this constant state of bliss? Replacing our baser desires with desires to please Krishna. If we strive to please Guru and Krishna, Krishna says you're perfect. In his eyes, you're perfect. Even though in your eyes, you may still be imperfect. Krishna says you have achieved perfection when you work hard to follow the instructions of your spiritual master. We'll stop here for the day. Vancha kalpadarupyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. If there are any questions, I'll take it now. Srinivasan Prabhu, you can stop the recording. Thank you.